tomb of a royal family member of the Shang Dynasty in China more than 3,000 years ago. A huge bronzeware weighing more than 800 kilograms were allegedly found inside. During the archaeological excavations, horrific human sacrifice, buried chariots, and horses were discovered. This is the story of this ancient tomb. In March 1939, a local farmer in Anyang City, Henan Province, China, discovered a huge object deep under his farmland, but couldn't be sure what it was. So he called many villagers to dig out the object. It turned out to be a big bronze vessel. China was in a state of war then, so to protect this bronzeware, they buried it again. A few years later, the war ended, and this big bronzeware was handed over to the National Museum of China. Archaeologists have been excavating in this region since the discovery of engraved oracle bones at the beginning of the last century. We talked about these oracle bones in the previous episode. I will leave the link in the description. Archaeologists have determined that this area was the capital of the late Shang Dynasty 3,000 years ago, and this courtyard is a royal cemetery where several Shang Dynasty kings were buried. In 1984, nearly half a century after the bronzeware was discovered, archaeologists excavated the tomb, and villagers claimed that it was here that the bronzeware was found. Let me say this in advance. All the skulls and skeletons we see in this tomb are replicas. The tomb was over 9 meters deep, and archaeologists discovered it was robbed shortly after its owner was buried. Moreover, this was a systematic tomb robbery. It is speculated that it may have occurred shortly after the Zhou dynasty overthrew the Shang dynasty. It was likely a revenge-style robbery by the Zhou people. According to soil analysis, it contains high copper ions, indicating that many bronze vessels were once buried here. However, except for the big bronzeware, the others have all disappeared, leaving only a few fragments. Why was this bronzeware the only one left behind? Is it because it's too big and too heavy? We may never know. Since the tomb has been looted many times in history, and the coffin and the remains of the tomb owner have been destroyed, it is difficult for us to determine the identity of the tomb owner. According to the inscription on this bronze vessel, it is speculated that the tomb owner may be one of the wives of Shang Dynasty King Wu Ding about 3,200 years ago. During the excavation process, archaeologists discovered several human skeletons. According to the funeral customs of the Shang Dynasty, these people were likely relatives, servants, or guards of the tomb owner. After being killed, they were buried with the tomb owner and would accompany him or her in the afterlife. This 20-meter-long slope is the tomb passage. It is from here that the coffin and various burial items were brought into the tomb. In ancient China, tomb passages were a symbol of social status. The tombs of ordinary people did not have such long tomb passages. archaeologists discovered 22 skulls in the middle of the tomb passage. These people were human sacrifices. According to oracle bone inscriptions, the Shang Dynasty would use prisoners of war as human sacrifices. During the funeral, these people's heads were cut off and buried in the tomb passage as a sacrifice. Again, these skulls are replicas, and their bodies were buried in nearby pits. Archaeologists have discovered such burial pits. Not far from this large tomb, there are such pits densely distributed. Many of the corpses in them have no heads. Considering that this place is the king's cemetery, this may be where these human sacrifices' bodies are buried. In 1046 BC, the Zhou dynasty overthrew the Shang dynasty, and the brutal and barbaric human sacrifice was abolished. Archaeologists also discovered many chariot and horse pits here. Although the wooden chariots have decayed, the traces are still clear. Chariots played a critical role in China's warfare during the Shang Dynasty and for about 1,000 years later. The number of chariots is a significant indicator of a country's military power. Typically, each chariot was staffed by a rider, an archer, and a soldier with a spear. Of course, the chariot's burial is also a reflection of social status. After restoration, the Shang Dynasty chariot 3,000 years ago may have looked like this, literally a 2-horsepower chariot. In the revenge-style tomb robbery mentioned earlier, almost all the tombs of the Shang Dynasty kings in this area were looted and destroyed. Surprisingly, in the past few decades, archaeologists have discovered 2 well-preserved high-level tombs from the Shang Dynasty not far from here, and unearthed many bronzewares, some of which have strange shapes. And that is what we will see in the next episode.